while we're doing the opening, and then when we get into the meeting.
We're ready.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here tonight. My name is Leah Love. I'm the Volunteer Training and Recruitment Coordinator at Blue Star Families. We'd like to welcome you to Blue Star Families Network's Live on Demand webinars. These are webinars that we are providing for military families with personal and professional development opportunities from around the world. So no matter where you're stationed, you can tune in today. I'm a military spouse myself, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But we do have a few just housekeeping items that I wanted to share with you before we get started. First off, I want to introduce just a few of our Blue Star Family staff members that are with us tonight. First and foremost, Kate Oyer, who's our Volunteer Recognition Coordinator, my awesome volunteer team partner and co-host for today. We also have Liz Jones joining us. She's our Careers Coordinator and the wonderful woman behind executing this great program for our entire team. And Kelly Babbs, our Senior Manager of Technology, has also kindly joined us tonight to assist if anything goes crazy with our technology. Hopefully it won't. But Kelly will also be helping to make your voice heard throughout the webinar, so that we hope that you're going to want to interrupt, engage with us today. So please don't hesitate to jump in at any time if you have a question. So you can do this by using the chat box, which you can click on at the bottom of your screen to open if you don't see it already on your screen. And Kelly will help to be your voice, or feel free to raise your hand and we can promote you to a panelist where you'll be free to ask your question to us personally. Just note that when we do promote you to a panelist, there is a slight delay in that. So don't be concerned if you think that we've kicked you off. We haven't, we promise. So without further ado, Kate and I are excited to talk to you today a bit about the value of volunteering. So let's get started. All right, so today in our webinar on the value of volunteering, there's kind of four main topics that we're going to be taking a look at. So we're going to look at not only why should you volunteer, but also the value that organizations see as well behind utilizing volunteers. And then also how to really just make the most of your volunteer experience. So once you've found one that is a great fit, you know, how to really kind of leverage that experience.
Okay, so first we want to start with, who is Blue Star Families? Well, in April of 2009, a group of military spouses got together in the hopes of making a difference in the lives of military families. They knew that the issues surrounding military families, they knew the issues were there, and they saw a need for a platform where family members could join forces with the general public and the communities where they live to address the challenges that we face in military life. So through the findings of our annual Military Family Lifestyle Survey, we are able to tailor our programming to meet the unique and ever-changing needs of our military families. In just 8 years, Blue Star Families has grown to over 25 communities and chapters around the world and more than 150,000 members. Our programs and services reach more than 1.5 million military families every year. Yes, 1.5 million. And this is all because of our volunteers. So why are we here talking to you about the value of volunteering? Well, Leah and I have both seen firsthand how volunteering can make a positive impact. Finding a steady career is really difficult for most military spouses, and my career path has been no exception. Prior to joining Blue Star Families, my family and I moved 7 times and experienced 4 very long deployments. In my 12 years as an Army spouse, I earned 2 college degrees, but because of the frequent moves, I have held 10 different positions in 12 years, and most of them were not even in my chosen career field. So to stay grounded through all the moves and deployments, I decided to volunteer with a lot of military support groups, including Army Family Readiness, a college student veterans committee, and various spouses clubs. My journey with Blue Star Families started in 2015. I was actually volunteering with my local spouses club, and a Blue Star Families staff member approached me and asked me to interview for the fellowship program. She said she was impressed by my volunteer work there at the base and thought that I'd make a great candidate. So never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would be here 2 years later in a permanent staff position as the Blue Star Family's volunteer recognition coordinator and the team lead for our Central and West regions. This is actually the second longest job I've ever had, and by far the most rewarding. I absolutely love working with and supporting our volunteers and seeing the positive differences they make every day in each of their communities.
So as I mentioned, I am also a military spouse. My husband is active duty Navy. We've had kind of a unique path as far as military time. My husband was in for 4 years, then he was out for 7, and then has been back in for almost 8. So I think when he was first in, it was a very different experience than our experience now. When he went in the second time, was almost exactly the same time that I had my oldest child, which was great. And I did the stay-at-home mom thing, and I loved it, and it was a wonderful time. But then there came the time where I was really just kind of searching for something that was my own, and that I kind of had more say in and control over and could do. And so somewhere along that way, we were stationed here in Michigan, which is a funny place for an active duty Navy family, we know. But I think there just kind of wasn't that community of other military families. And so somehow along the way, I found Blue Star Families and reached out to them and started as a volunteer. And so my journey with Blue Star Families was initially as a volunteer. And after just over a year of volunteering with them, a fellowship opportunity opened up, and Kate and I started on the same day, and are both here together now still. So we, like she said, we love working with our volunteers. I've held many different positions throughout my time, and I have to say this is by far the most rewarding. So Kate and I just really enjoy what we do with our volunteers. All right, so we're going to start kind of with why volunteer. What may be some of the reasons behind getting involved in volunteering in the first place. So as military spouses, we know that our lifestyle is really full of a lot of unique challenges, things that are unique to our life. Finding and maintaining a career can be really towards the top of that list of challenges. So from filling gaps on our resume to providing experience, maybe it's experience we need in a new kind of field, or to show a new skill set. Volunteering really can be a great way to stay current through all those transitions that we go through throughout our lives. And even if you're not looking at it from a career-oriented perspective, volunteering really can have a lot of benefits, including providing that sense of belonging to your community, and just really kind of feeling fully invested in what's happening around you. The other thing too is it can be a great way to meet people. And as we all know, when you get to a new place, you kind of need to find your local tribe, right? And so volunteering can be a great way to meet people, and a lot of times meet people that may be in crowds or groups that you wouldn't otherwise have been exposed to. Okay, we can't hear you.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, so what's in it for them? What's in it for these organizations that are looking for volunteers? Volunteers are vital to nonprofits. They keep those nonprofits alive through the critical services they provide in their communities. According to the Corporation for National and Community Service, 62.6 million people in the U.S. volunteered in 2015, collectively donating 7.8 billion hours of their time to their communities. The value of volunteer time, which is updated annually by the Points of Light organization, is $23.56 an hour. So that means in 2015, volunteers in the United States contributed over $183 billion worth of service. It should come as no surprise, though, that nonprofits around the country, including here at Blue Star Families, feel that no amount of money is high enough to reflect the value of the work that our volunteers do. volunteering has really taken on a new meaning at so many organizations, especially when we saw the economic downturn. So it's not just about the work that volunteers do, it's about the fact that this work wouldn't get done at all without the efforts of these millions of Americans who donate their time and effort to help others. I want to brag on our volunteers for just a second. Here at Blue Star Families, in 2016, our volunteers contributed 8,981 hours of their time, which means we can say that we had someone volunteering every hour of every day in 2016. That's amazing. The monetary benefit of their time equaled over $211,000. Because of our volunteers, our organization participated in 461 events and touched the lives of almost 82,000 military families and neighbors. And that's just in 2016. Really incredible. This is why we love our volunteers so much.
So volunteering, is not only valuable to an organization, but it's also valuable to you. There's a lot of articles that have been written, and there's really kind of a growing body of research that's being conducted behind the benefits of volunteering for the volunteer. Everything from just the opportunity to help others to, networking opportunities that a lot of times translate to jobs for folks, meeting new people, learning new skills, increasing your self-esteem, improving your mental and physical health, even aligned with things like lower rates of depression or greater functional ability, and just that kind of investment in strengthening your community. These are all really great direct results that you as the volunteer can experience due to engaging in volunteer opportunities.
So we turn to the experts for this next part. Here are some of the things that our volunteers love about donating their time and talents. For Lauren and Cameron, who are our first husband and wife team, it's about doing something together. Lauren says, military life is hard. We want to be together, to laugh, make people smile, make someone's day, and know that we did it together. Volunteering makes us stronger people, stronger families, and stronger friends. Plus, we get to meet amazing people along the way. Our Fort Bliss chapter director told us, when I had to stop working to stay home and care for my husband, I felt lost. My routine of 20 years was no longer a routine, and I found myself getting lost in the day-to-day job at home. Volunteering gave me a sense of being productive. It allows me to get out of the house, advocate, meet other women, and find new resources, which I then share with others who need those resources as well. Sharing and helping others is empowering. Every day we get a chance to work on being better people and work on how to build empowering communities through volunteering. Plus, I love my BSF team. Karen in Hawaii said that when working isn't an option, I find fulfillment in long-term volunteering. I feel relevant, connected to my community, and able to use and share my skills. I can learn from community members and benefit from their knowledge and experience. So that's why it's crucial as a volunteer to find the right fit. Not to mention, it's a great way to meet people with similar interests. It's an almost guaranteed way to make a friend in a new home. Another volunteer told us, my husband and I feel that it's important to give back to the community that we call home for our short stay, and we do it to set an example for our sons. Also, a lot of military families don't live near family. Once you get involved, you become part of that community, you feel a sense of belonging, and your network of support grows. For Lana's family at Travis Air Force Base, it's about paying it forward. She says, we have been fortunate enough to experience the kindness and support of different service organizations, and it's important to us to pass that on to others through volunteering. Plus, it helps to teach our kids the value of helping others. Our Fort Hood volunteer agrees, and she encourages us to be a village for each other because only we know our true struggles as military families. And finally, one of our volunteers in Washington said that giving money is easy. Giving your personal time and effort takes a much bigger commitment. Seeing the smiles, hearing words of appreciation from those you are serving, and seeing with your own eyes the difference you are making makes it all worth it.
So one of the key steps when you're exploring any kind of volunteer experience is really doing your best to assess if it's the right fit for both you and for the organization. So some questions that you may want to ask yourself before you seek an opportunity or you're exploring opportunities are, first and foremost, what causes or issues really matter to me the most? Do I want to volunteer for something that uses the skills that I may use in my paying job? Or do I want to try something that's completely different? What do I don't want to do as a volunteer, right? This sometimes that question can be just as important or more important than thinking about what you do want to do. What do you want to learn most by volunteering? Do you want something that's ongoing, that's regularly scheduled, or do you want just a one-time, kind of volunteer assignment? Do you like working alone? Do you like working with a group? Do you want to be able to bring your kids? These are all questions that you want to ask yourself when you are exploring volunteer opportunities. And there's a few key areas that you really want to be sure to inquire about. And that's, the time commitment. So is this a volunteer opportunity that's just a few hours, or is it all day long? Is it one time, or is it, every Tuesday, or is it once a month? The location. It's really important that, you have a location that you are able and willing to go to. A lot of times, especially for folks that are in larger cities, it may say San Antonio, but that being in San Antonio to try and get from one side of town to another, especially at certain times of day, could be really difficult. So, really important to kind of hone in on that location piece. Then also just making sure that you understand any kind of physical requirements that may be considered for the job, if there's any type of heavy lifting or anything like that. And if there's any special skills that they're requiring for that position. And if these things aren't spelled out in a, volunteer position description, then ask. Not knowing and not asking is only going to lead to frustrations for both you and the organization. So kind of understanding the expectations of the role and taking that time to assess if it's truly the right fit is going to lead to a much better experience for everyone that's involved. So these kind of variables in volunteer opportunities really speak directly to what we do at Blue Star Families as well. In our chapter and community locations, we offer leadership roles for volunteers to serve either as chapter directors, program and event managers, or social media managers. These three main roles make up what we call a volunteer leadership team. And while they may have different time commitments, which can also vary depending upon the location, those are all long-term commitment positions. So at each of those locations, though, we also have what we call key volunteers. So our chapters and communities are supported by these key volunteers who help at events or with projects kind of as they're able to do so. They may just help once, or they may help multiple times, just depending upon their availability. We also have opportunities for people who want to volunteer virtually. This could include activities such as sharing online resources with families, maybe our spouse employment toolkit or our caregivers video series, sharing about our career mentoring through Hire Heroes USA, which you can register through our website. There's a lot of great things that are available directly through our website that you can help spread the word about. This also includes our, Blue Star Museums program, Blue Star Theaters. These are things that have opportunities available across the country, not just in our chapter or community locations. We also encourage people, who may not be in a chapter or community location. One way you can really help us is by just asking people to join and become part of our network. And also by engaging or sharing social media, following us, sharing posts on Facebook or through Instagram. These are all things that help to support our organization, and we, are really key to our success as well. So we're also developing Blue Star neighborhood projects. This is something that's kind of coming soon. So you guys are getting the first maybe sneak peek a little bit. These are going to be projects that people can take on in their communities to support military families. So again, it's a volunteer opportunity where people would be provided a toolkit that just kind of provides that easy step-by-step instructions for some kind of activity to support their families in their areas. And we're really excited. These, as I said, these are kind of on the horizon. Examples are like putting together maybe a care packages for families. And we do actually already have a neighbors checklist that's available on our website that gives a great checklist of things that people can do in any community, any location to support the military families in their area. So we're really excited about these opportunities that are going to be coming up. So stay tuned for more information as those become available as well. So if you are interested in volunteering with Blue Star Families, the best thing to do is just complete a volunteer interest form at the website that's listed at the bottom there. And once you register, you'll receive a follow-up email that details how you can connect with your local chapter or community. But always please do reach out to me if you have any trouble or have any questions about that as well.
So as Leah said, finding the right fit is so important. Our volunteer team here at Blue Star Families is amazing, and we know that after joining us on this webinar, all of you will want to volunteer with us. But just in case you're looking for something a bit different, here's a list of some really great places to start. The first is Volunteer Match. This is a database that includes volunteer openings with organizations all over the country, and it's all different. Any volunteer position you could think of is listed out there on Volunteer Match. Actually, our fabulous careers coordinator, Liz Jones, told us that she uses Volunteer Match when she moves to a new area to find out what's available. Similarly, allforgood.org, which is a service provided by Points of Light, is a hub for volunteerism and community service. It's a virtual meeting place for organizations and individuals. So it just provides a platform, an online platform for people to see where change is needed, and it makes it easy for them to engage. Points of Light's hands-on network includes more than 250 hands-on action centers in 16 countries. So definitely check out their website to see where those are located. Idealist.org is another online space to find volunteer opportunities. Their mission is to close the gap between intention and action by connecting people, organizations, ideas, and resources. So a lot of good conversations happening on Idealist. If you're looking for something a little more local to you, the Armed Services YMCA and the American Red Cross are co-located at many military installations throughout the world and frequently have volunteer opportunities available. Some of our other local favorites include the USO, Mission Continues, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, the VA, Fisher House. So many opportunities out there to volunteer. And don't forget about volunteering on base. Most installations have a dedicated volunteer program, usually through the Family Readiness Center. So ask around to find out how you can connect with your installation volunteer coordinator.
All right. So once you've found, that volunteer opportunity, you've reached out to the organization, and then you're volunteering. What do you do then, right? How do you kind of leverage that that experience? So once you are in that opportunity, in order to really capitalize that, and it's funny because I think a lot of people forget this part. In fact, a LinkedIn survey a few years ago found that less than 50% of people include volunteer experience on a resume, which is amazing. It's like, I'm not sure if they get so excited and kind of tied up into that volunteering experience that they forget, or maybe they don't think that it's of enough value to include. But absolutely, having that component to try and kind of leverage your experience and showcase what you're doing is really an important part to your volunteering. So don't forget this part at all. Pay attention. First and foremost, you want to make sure you update your resume. We've got a great employment toolkit available to download from the Blue Star Families website that you can see, if may be helpful to you. It provides guidance on everything from interviews to translating volunteer experience to resume bullet points. Check it out from our website and see if that may be a helpful tool for you. Also, don't use the word volunteer in your role. You can use terms that would relate to how that role would be described if it were a paid position. Also, be careful to not just add all of your volunteer roles just to kind of pack your resume, right? Make sure, just as you would personalize your resume depending upon the position that you're applying for, Do the same with your volunteer experience. So include experience that may be relevant to the position for which you're applying. Don't be afraid also, once you've proven yourself in a position, to ask your supervisor from the organization to provide some kind of letter of recommendation or an endorsement on your LinkedIn profile. This translates to more ongoing roles. I would not expect this for, a one-time opportunity that you're part of. But don't be afraid to ask. If you've taken on a significant volunteer role with an organization, be sure to ask about those things. And also be sure to utilize the connections you've made. View every volunteer opportunity really as a networking event. And lastly, also, many organizations have awards for their volunteers. Here at Blue Star Families, we've got a quarterly and annual volunteer awards, as well as being able to submit the volunteer hours for the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, which is a national award that recognizes and celebrates Americans who make that positive impact each year. So receiving awards such as these really should be things that you highlight with future potential employers. And with that, we are going to kind of wrap up our presentation part of the webinar, and we would really love to open it up to any kinds of questions that you all may have.
Leah, Sheila asked, if you aren't currently active, can you still volunteer on a base?
That's a great question. So if you're saying if you're not a card holder?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Sheila, if you want to type in chat or we can promote you, are you meaning if you're not currently active duty or like the spouse of an active duty service member, can you still get on base?
So I'll speak to if that is what you're asking. I would say it kind of depends upon the opportunity. So for example, we have a large Disney tentpole event coming up that's held on base, but if we had volunteers who were not, that did not have base access, they are able for that event to give that access. So I think it would kind of depend upon, what community organization you're working with or what office you're working with, as to if that's a possibility. Kate, would you add anything? Okay.
And yeah, Sheila, she followed up with, we're not active duty, so does that preclude me? It does not, but Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, it also is dependent on the base. So you would have to reach out, excuse me, to your local base if a volunteer opportunity was on base.
And even more than the base, I would think it would just depend upon, the kind of particular office that you'd be looking to engage with and the opportunity. Anything else?
Leah, I have a couple more coming in on chat. How much time do I need to dedicate to a volunteer role to make it worth it?
You want to take one, Kate?
Sure. So that's really the beauty of volunteering. It is whatever you want to make it. So, if you only have 1 hour a month, that's great. That's 1 hour that the right organization is going to benefit from you. So our best advice is to just be completely honest. When you sit down with the volunteer coordinator at the organization, talk about your availability, talk about what you are and are not willing to do. And I think, as long as you're upfront about your expectations, then I think, any time is worth it. And don't forget to include it on your resume.
We have another one. When is it okay to say no?
So a few thoughts on this one. One, I think back to when we were talking about making a good fit, right? So I think kind of taking into consideration those things we mentioned, like time commitment, the location, the skills that may be required of that position. I think the more that you can think about those things on the front end, the better it's going to be for everyone involved, right? I think that it's fine to say no, and to know kind of your own limitations is an important part of that. The other side of that, I would say, though, is if it's something you've already committed to, treat these opportunities and treat your volunteering as a professional experience, right? And so if you're thinking of it in that way, I would say, if it's something that you've already committed to, then you want to make sure that you follow through with it, and handle that in a professional manner, if that makes sense.
Do we have time for one more?
Sure.
Okay. Are there any opportunities to stay away from?
Again, like Leah said, anything that maybe isn't the right fit for you, stay away from those. If it's going to be way too much of a time commitment or you can't get to the location, look for something else. There's so many volunteer opportunities out there, and don't discount virtual opportunities too. We talked about some of the ones that we have here at Blue Star Families. There are a lot of organizations that offer that type of volunteering that you can do no matter where you're located.
Awesome, thank you. One more here. I like this one. What resources does Blue Star Families have to help spouses who actually do have a career focus but might be in between jobs?
So there's several things that we have. One, I would say, reach out to us to volunteer, right? Because we do have several locations where we have chapters and communities, and we're always looking for folks to get involved. We do have several other resources that are available really to anyone in any location. We do have career managers that are in 2 locations in San Diego and Jacksonville. But beyond that, we also have things online like our spouse employment toolkit that I mentioned, the partnership with Hire Our Heroes that I mentioned. We have, several different things. We have Facebook groups for educators and entrepreneurs and healthcare workers that allow people to kind of connect in that space. And, even these Networks Live webinars can be, useful things. There's been a variety of topics that have already come about through these webinars, and I know there's a lot of great ones scheduled. So make sure that you're signed up to get information on those as well. But yeah, absolutely check out online. And like I say, if you're interested, in volunteering and helping that to kind of fill your resume, that's an opportunity as well.
Anything else, Kelly?
No, not right now. Thank you.
All right, so we just want to say thank you, not only for spending time with us today, but for all the work that you are doing in your community. Thank you for being willing to step in and volunteer in order to make a difference. Your community needs you, and they appreciate all of the time that you spend. Nobody has any other questions. I guess that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks all.